I am Jessica Butts. Welcome to the Front Seat Life podcast, where I help you learn to be unapologetically who you are and live your life from the front seat through personal development, self-awareness, and real and raw conversations about life, love, and business. I'm a former psychotherapist and couples counselor turned author, speaker, coach, and lovingly, well, I hope so anyway, been nicknamed Jessica Kickbutts because I believe sometimes we need hand-holding and sometimes we just need to be told the freaking truth, even if it hurts a little. So each week I'll be sharing truth bombs, life lessons, powerful interviews, and intuitive insights to empower you to get up, show up, and live your life in a new, powerful, authentic way. So if you're ready to climb into your front seat and embark on a journey of total transformation, you have come to the right place. Start your engines. Let's do this. Hello, Front Seat Lifers, and welcome back. So today's episode, I actually recorded the first week of our crazy new world that we live in, of COVID and this pandemic and sheltering in place and all of this. So I have gotten through the beautiful and wonderful Live Unapologetic launch, and now we are getting into some business content. It's my favorite. I love to talk about entrepreneurship, and Jena is a wonderful and amazing friend of mine, as well as a business coach. We met many, many years ago, and she is going to deliver on some beautiful content today for you around your ego and how we're getting triggered right now. And it just couldn't be a better topic. So I hope you enjoy today's amazing interview with the wonderful and talented and kind and badassery Jena Rodriguez. Hello, Front Seat Lifers. I'm not going to lie. I'm extra excited for today. One, because I've had way too much coffee. And two, I have a dear friend of mine, Jena Rodriguez, with me. I just did her podcast a couple of weeks ago. She and I met a super long time ago. I don't know. Years ago,
5 years,
reconnected. She's kicking ass in business. She's just a kind of a soul sister kind of person. We reconnected and we were like, we should probably be giving to our communities. So she is the CEO, creator of Brave Masters, which I love. Your tagline is Entrepreneurs Unleashed. And then she has the specific thing, which couldn't be more relevant right now, which is ego tricks that keep you playing small. So, Jena, welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Keep us playing small and shrinking, right?
Yeah.
And thank you so much.
Again, I think this is appropriate all the time because
100%.
As entrepreneurs, we are straight up out in the world, showing our bits. Gotta be authentic and transparent. One of my things, which I didn't come up with the saying, is your mess is your message. We need to show up and be transparent and authentic and open. I believe that is one of my core values as a coach, and as a coach myself. But we also have this crazy, ridiculous, unbelievable coronavirus going on.
Yes.
That is more than ever having entrepreneurs specifically question whether or not they can be of service.
Yes.
Whether or not they should sell. Whether or not they should keep their business running. And I just thought, I got chills this morning when I started prepping for this call, because I just thought, I have them right now too. I cannot wait to share this content because it's so desperately needed. In addition, I will add, before I let you just kind of go for it, is I think as women too. So I was listening to Susan Hyatt, who's actually my coach right now and a friend of mine now. Susan had a 13-minute little bonus episode. It was brilliant around selling. and selling in these times. And one of the most interesting things she said during that was she was talking to her husband, Scott Hyatt, and she asked him, are you like worried about the optics basically of going into work right now and like selling corporate real estate or commercial real estate? And he just looked at her, apparently, I'm, retelling the story. And he said, no, like, why would I be? And she was like, from a feminist perspective, that's fascinating because men aren't thinking about it, but women as caregivers, right? And as people who are, not that all men, aren't, but we have this specific skill to be very conscientious of these kinds of things. We even hold ourselves back more.
Yeah.
We even hold ourselves back more. And we are allowed, more than allowed, to make money. We are more than allowed to help keep the economy going. Like, it chokes me up to think about it because, like, if I don't make any money and you don't make any money and Susan Hyatt doesn't make any money and all of those people, we then are affecting the rest of the economy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get to pay my team. I don't get to pay all the small business owners that I keep working with. That is, it makes my soul hurt. And so there's so much to unpack here, but I just wanted to mention that because it was firing me up yesterday. And I was like, you go, girl. And now Jena, like, you go, girl. Talk to us about talk to us. Talk to us.
And it's so funny because you can't see me. I'm like, I have a Post-it note. Everything, all the things you just said. I'm
watching
like, holy cow, there's a lot.
We can see each other, but you guys can't see us. But I was watching Jena like, oh shit, I need to take that. Oh, that was good. Oh, I need to take note of that. So girl, I hear you. We have so much to talk about.
Yeah. So let's see. Where do we start with this conversation? So first, you mentioned ego trick. So I think it's important that I define what that is. And I think people can relate to it immediately. Is we have two parts of us, right? And in general, for simplistic purposes, we've got that, protector inside of us. We have that, reptilian part of us that is here to survive itself and keep us alive. And that is turned on at unprecedented levels, I think, among the human race right now, right? And then we, of course, have our higher self, our knowing self, right? The self part of us that knows it's going to be okay, knows that we are safe, knows that we are resilient, and things can get bad and things can get worse, but then they get better. And then it's like, we're going to be okay. And in the general sense, right? And so we are now on hyper alert. And those ego tricks are playing us. Not yesterday, a couple of days ago, I was watching my family members and I was like watching the dance of the egos go on. I was like, holy cow. Like, I was watching their conversation. I was like, back and forth, back and forth. One is in self-preservation. The other is like, oh my God, I just got triggered because I don't feel loved. I was like, wow, the dynamic that's going on. So I can only imagine the households that we are now in, because now we have to not only be with each other and if we're going to honor this social distancing conversation, and I do believe we should, and seriously should, to take a look at that. So couple things, I'm like, where do I start? So that's an ego trick. And there's many.
Can you start, actually, Jena, can you just start by your definition of even the ego? I mean, because I think let's just like really get simple so people understand. Because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about what the ego is. And of course, as former therapist, I've got my perspective on it too. But will you share with us?
Yeah, and it's my distinction, right? And in simple terms, it is the part of us and our brain and what have you that keeps us safe, wants to keep us protected. At all costs, and it doesn't know the difference between physical or emotional pain. It's like, it's pain, I don't want it. Right. So that's my perspective, certainly.
And this is the same.
It's the same. Okay, great. Yeah. And I just use the word ego because most people have heard of it. Maybe they have a different relatedness to it or a distinction. That's fine. Totally. But that is mine. And so it's that false self. It's that part of us that operates from that egoic part of us that is, it's almost like the armor that walks around in front of us all the time. And it's doing its job. I mean, we need one. We need to have that protection, or we would be aimlessly walking around this earth. getting hit by buses for that matter. So,
and this is in alignment very much with my whole methodology of the baby in the backseat.
Exactly.
So our ego is the reptilian brain.
Yes.
It is our protection mechanism. You flip our prefrontal cortex, and our prefrontal cortex really is our safety. It's our front seat. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs of self-actualization. It's when we're in a really wonderful, fulfilled place, which is a fantastic place to be. And we're not always in that. I don't know about you, Jenna, but right now I am on an emotional roller coaster.
100%.
I have about 3 hours a day where I'm like, fuck, life is great. I'm having the time of my life. And then like within minutes, I'm like, oh my God, the doom at the end of the world is happening. And so I think this conversation is more important than ever to first of all, validate the fact that everyone's going through that, but then to understand what your ego does. So for extroverts, it's to flee. So mine is, I want to run away. I want to, like, I'm thinking about, I might get an RV and drive across the country all by myself. Like, I don't want anybody
camping.
Totally, right? And then the introverts, part of their ego, and there's a lot more to the ego, they lash out.
Yes.
They get up in your face. And so I just wanted to say that kind of before you even jumped in, for those, because this is, my podcast, is that the listeners understand understanding as well of that reptilian baby in the backseat response is either like, I want to retreat. I mean, even in my relationship right now, like if I don't get what I need, I am overreacting like a freaking baby. It's embarrassing. I mean, he was like, girl, where are you? And I'm like, I'm freaking out. And it's just, it is like a baby, but I'm acknowledging, and I'm like, I'm throwing a tantrum. This is what I'm doing. And then, so for you, Jenna, yours is probably coming out a little loud.
I'm an introvert. So I actually have 4 egoic archetypes that are just behavioral, ways I self-identify. And I'm the realist. My primary is the realist, and then I'm also the rebel. So that's where the anger and the trigger,
Awesome. Will you tell us about those 4?
Comes out. Do what?
Tell us about those 4.
Yeah, so the egoic archetypes for me, which embodies the 14 ego tricks, is the realist, the rebel, the illusionist, and the martyr. And so if you're an extrovert, you may be going into the martyr or the illusionist more predominantly, which are, they're a little more like flee related. So the martyr is going to go into guilt. It's going to go into, dependency, but it's kind of like inward. We go inward, we do the shoulds, we do the kind of the self-judgment and things like that. We martyr ourselves. And then the illusionist is the fear. It's the confusion. We sit in our heads, we spin. We don't make decisions. We paralyze, right? So that part. And then the rebel and the realist, the rebel, of course, is anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance. It's and it can also be in the addiction conversation where if your ego tricks are just not working, you're going to go grab the alcohol, you're going to go grab possibly the cigarettes, or you're going to sleep a lot, or you're going to find other things to obsess about. So addiction for me has a distinction where it can be those traditional addictions that we all know about, but it can also be these other things. It can be workaholic, it can be workoutaholic. It can be these things where we feel like we have to in order to be okay. Right. Good. So anywhere, number one,
which is a total coping mechanism.
It's totally coping. Yeah. Yep. And then the realist, just to wrap that circle around, the realist is, how do I fix this? I need it to be this way in order to feel safe. I need it to look like this in order to feel safe. It's very pragmatic, and it's very the fixers. I'm a fixer. And so yes, I go into, in the space of being safe and preserving myself, I definitely go into action around how to fix it, how to solve the problem. And so that's what I do as well. And then also on the flip side, if I can't fix it, I tend to go into my rebel, right? Or if I'm, in trigger mode, I tend to go into the rebel. And for me, my observation of people with ego, right, which is 100% of us, that, we dance. We dance with all of the different tricks. We kind of, we sometimes float from thing to thing. Do I have fear and the illusion turned on? Sure, I have some fear, but that's usually not my primary. I go into the realist or the rebel, and do I feel some like guilt is not my primary. However, I think that is so. Back to how do we tie these to the conversations that you brought up? The selling conversation for women. If you find yourself, you're using all the other ego tricks, but that won't work. So let's go into guilt about even asking for the sale right now, or just the emotional. Well, I don't want to impose. It becomes this, this conversation where we back up and internalize it all and try to just take it all on, versus, standing in our power and being in our higher self around what we can do, what are our opportunities to serve, how can we support people. And yeah, that may come with a price tag, right? And so the other thing that you mentioned was, I wrote down the word excuses, right? So where we find ourselves using excuse and it's like the reasons why not. And that's that's going to be floating in the illusionist, because illusionists, a lot of them say, I can't do that. I can't do this. And then the realist is like, making up all the reasons, right? Because then you have a very strong story and very realistic. If you hear yourself, I'm being realistic. I have people in my life that say that. I'm like, I'm being realistic. I'm like, oh my God. And then my my higher self is over here like, well, let's look at all possibilities. Right. But if I'm in the ego trick or the egoic archetype is playing called the realist, then I'm like, well, hold on a minute. The reality is, so it's very interesting. And, and you being, having your history, working with so many people in the career that you had, it's like, I've been around a lot of people also in a lot of 20 years and serving a lot of people and watching them, observing their behaviors. Right. And this is where this all came for me, not only observing my own, which I'm always the first, I'm always the guinea pig for myself. But I'm now able, when I know the 14 ego tricks, I can witness myself in the moment, even though I'm in the moment, right? I'm in the breakdown. I'm in the emotion. I'm in the reaction. I can witness it like I'm standing outside of my body and be like, yep, you're losing your mind. Your ego's turned on. And honestly, I think that is the conscious way to live. It does not mean that I'm not human. And I want to add this. This is something that came up this morning for me. And not only am I speaking to Entrepreneurs Unleashed, it's Leaders Unleashed. And so what's interesting, there was a conversation where someone just said, wow, I'm shocked that this person is so fearful right now and is so opinionated right now. And, it's almost like we hold leaders to a higher standard, not to be human. And I'm like, you and me both just have already said, oh no, we have our moments on a daily, minute by minute basis. And I just want to offer to everyone listening is like, leadership is about self-leadership first. I think it's about personal ownership first and self-awareness. And then you can be in your personal power long enough to help another person lead themselves. Yeah. Right. And so traditional conversation like leadership, you need to stand up there and tell me what to do. Well, I think the real definition for me is to stand up and lead people to better self-awareness, better a higher level of consciousness, and sure, may have to create directives, may have to, obviously, because there's also a mass amount of people that are not living consciously. Okay. So we're watching the country and leadership, and I'm not here to have an opinion about whether they're doing it well or not.
Share your opinion. Yes.
Yeah. That's, it's not, they're doing, for me, if I really wanted to be my higher self in the moment, I'm like, I bet they're doing the best they know how. Yeah. Because they're human like I am. Right.
Yeah. Let me pause you. First of all, my listeners know I'm never that quiet.
I know you are.
I am never that quiet for that long. So everyone knows that I just found that shit fascinating because she can see me right now, but I've got my hands crossed. I am like, fucking tell me more. I am so interested in this. Okay.
Yeah. You and me both.
I have to say, I knew this was going to be an awesome conversation, but it's already blowing my mind. So I can't help but tie this to type. So first of all, what are you calling these? The ego archetypes?
Egoic
This
archetype.
is so good.
Good,
I
right?
mean, this is
I woke up with that in my head one day.
Do you not love that?
I love
That's how everything is unloaded with me too. I was like, oh, this is like a front seat and a back seat. Oh, this is like your reptilian brain.
Yes.
Oh, this is this archetype. I mean, it's such a gift, right?
Yes.
This is fascinating. And from a, psychologist perspective and someone who studies human behavior, the tie-in of this and Myers-Briggs is undeniable.
I know.
So I'm gonna play here for a little bit. Good. So I would like everyone to have a visual because I now just wrote out. And by the way, if you're at home, which you probably are when this is happening, yes. I encourage you to write out these squares because I just did this. So upper left is rebel, upper right is realistic, lower left is the illusionist. Oh, she's got it right here. So can we have that for free? How do we get this for free?
Yes. You know what? I know I have it color coded. Of course I have it color coded.
Of course you do. Can we have that? How do we get that?
Yeah. I'll get it. I will add it to the other free thing. I want to make sure everybody has in their hands.
Okay. So everybody, it's in the show notes. So then the bottom right, again, to hers might look different, but this is my visual right now, is the martyr. My friends, the martyr is all the NJs. This is totally me. I am such a martyr. It's disgusting. I flee. I run away. So the bottom, I now am like, these are the extroverts. Meaning this is where we go when we freak out. So NPs, totally the illusionists. Like they get confusion and they're overwhelmed and I can't, and they just they catastrophize, right? Jena is cracking up right now, by the way, everybody. You can't see her.
But so good.
So I was doing the same thing. I was like, oh my God, this is the tie-in. And now she's doing the same thing. So I think the martyr are totally NJs, which are the entrepreneurs. The illusionists are the NPs, which are the squirrels. The upper right? Yeah. The rebels are totally SPs because they have addiction issues. They overeat, they overdrink, they do all the things. That's their coping mechanism is like, I'm going to avoid this because their normal way of being
is go numb out somehow.
Oh, they are number outers because their normal way of being is like, let's do all the things. And so right now they can't do that. And then the realist has got to be the SJs. Like this is how the functioning of I got to figure this out. I got to do all the things. Let me put everything in a row and figure all this stuff out. So by the way, Jena, this is absolute gold. And I love when I meet, I mean, obviously I've known you for a while, but we haven't talked about this and how.
Oh no, this is new to me.
How these overlap and go together is just mind blowing to me.
That's awesome.
And then, so the last part of that is I totally agree about the leadership as well. And I saw a meme on Insta or Facebook or something that we're going to know who the leaders are after this.
Correct.
This is going to weed some people out. And we're talking about being brave.
Yes.
Well, I want to tie this back into brave. And then I do want to get these 14 ego things because I think that's going to be really helpful. But it's worth tying this to being brave right now because, and I want you to put your spin on it with the ego, because right now my ego wants to run away. I literally had visions of, I wonder if I could drive an RV. I was like, we're going to get an RV. Can I do that? Because I just was like, I'm just going to take off. I'm just going to go be wherever right now.
Yeah.
Because that is how much my nervous system, my ego is being triggered. And I am choosing to be brave.
That's right.
I am choosing to be a leader. I am choosing to lean in, granted, with a lot more rest. I mean, my afternoons right now are out in nature, by myself, socially, distancing, all the things. But I'm choosing. Because I also believe, and this is not just for me, this is for everyone listening, you have a duty and a service to provide your content right now.
Yeah.
People need it more than ever.
Yeah.
We are I just got off the phone with one of my favorite clients who is all about healthful eating. And she was like, how do I spin this? And I was like, how do you not spin it? Right? How do you not spin this? Like, this is like,
you just went up 10 octaves. You got to listen.
This is like gold. And your clients need it. Like, people are home eating chips and freaking out and drinking too much and whatever they're doing to cope. And how can that's going to break down their immune system.
Yeah.
So again, that is just one example, but my whole Myers-Briggs stuff that I'm getting ready to launch, I hemmed and hawed and do I launch and what do I do about this? And my team was basically like, girlfriend, this is just truth right now. You are doing families and people a disservice by holding back this content.
Yes.
And if you don't charge for it, you're just messing up the economy.
Yeah, you're just adding to the problem, not the solution.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So and I think the other thing is your intention and my intention is not to just go. I think, you don't go run your business out of desperation.
Never.
Which I know our egos are in. There is the survival going on. Yeah. And I am my marketing plan, my intention this week was like, all right, all online, because my business is very much built a lot on public speaking. Mm-hmm. And I just got canceled everything, right? Yeah. So my point is like, okay, how can I serve? But it doesn't mean charging is not serving. Mm-hmm. However, you're going to see so much free stuff. I'm like, but if you want more and you want me and you want me to support you through this hard time or the times that are to come, whatever, or beyond, then there's a price to it. But
which is also keeping the economy going in the way that we, my own little Jessica sphere can do what it needs to do right. Yes.
Yeah. And I think the other thing really quick is, I know we're very acute. We're looking very, pinhole and acute right now, like the next couple weeks, which is like going to be a blip in the whole matrix, our life. 1 month is, 2 months, 3 months, even a year is very small considering how much we have, right? For most of us. So my point is keep your eye on the long game as well. But don't shrink, show up. Stop shrinking and show up. And I want to speak to the brave, like you said.
Yes, please.
About brave for a minute.
Please.
And I just had another download last week, and this is so good. So two things. There's 3 pieces to this, and 2 of them I got the download like a year and a half ago when someone was interviewing me. But then there's a whole nother layer, and I was like, wow, right? I saw the wow in it. So number 1, I believe there's 3 types of brave. I like 3s, 4s, I like numbers. Brave by survival, brave by choice, and now, as of last week, brave by purpose. Mm-hmm. And
can you elaborate on those?
Absolutely. Yeah, like, I'm going to just leave you hanging. Just kidding. Okay. So brave by survival. What I saw in my life, I have certainly a lot of, hardships. My childhood was, riddled with, divorce, of course, first. And then my mother's boyfriend was domestic violence and physically abusive to her and, emotionally to me and all of that. So that lived on for 5 years. I moved out at 14. These are survival braves, right? Brave by survival. I didn't have a lot of time to think through the long effect. I was just like, get me away from this, get me out of this. I was bullied in high school. So then I was like, fine, I'm going to go to college full time. Everybody's like, wow, what an amazing, no, I was running. I'm like, brave by survival, but it worked, it certainly was a positive ultimately. However, so there are going to be people that are in that brave by survival and they have been in brave by survival, because if you look at the evolution of our consciousness, there is a level of victimship that we all start with. And how fast we move through that is to be determined. Right. And so for me in my young life, I was that old soul. I was very much into, reading the self-help books and figuring things out and how do I fix this and how do I change my behavior? How do I understand others' behavior? Right. And yet not everybody's there, and that's okay. So how fast or how much you move through the levels of consciousness, and we all start as a baby victim to our circumstances called mama help me, right? We have no choice, right? So brave by survival. So I get brave, or I take actions that are brave because I'm running or pushing away from something. And there's a lot of that going on because our egos have just taken over at a whole different rate. However, if your consciousness is at brave by choice level, which now you understand that you create your reality. That's that level of consciousness that I've been in for the last about, 15, 20 years. So like 15 years, maybe predominantly. And so when that occurred, then I started seeing how my thoughts, my emotions, my energy, my vibration, all of that stuff was like, wow, this really does change my reality. Right. And so now I'm living in a consciousness that's brave by choice. And for me, and up till really last year, that's where I was.
By choice.
By choice. And it was, what I saw is like, my decision to move to California and uplift all of my family, and we made it as a family decision. But that idea and that decision was a brave by choice. I didn't have to. There was nothing wrong. There was nothing I was running from. There was nothing I was, trying to protect from. And then last week, I was like, I'm at a different level. Like that's not even enough anymore. And the next level of consciousness is, like really leaning into your higher purpose. First you're like victimship of the world around you, and then you're brave, you're brave by choice, and you're living in this, like, wow, I can create a different reality around in my space. And then now I'm like, how do I reach the masses with my purpose? And so now it is brave by purpose.
So good.
And that inside of leadership, that inside of self-leadership is, I've got chills.
So do I. I hate that they can't see us. I am like, praise God right now. I'm like, preach it, sister. Yeah, you have chills and I am preaching over here.
I'll let you know when I get to the fourth level.
Dude, keep
right
going.
now,
this is so relevant right now.
Yeah, it's good, right? I'm like, thank you, God. I mean, I give credit to the download. But the brave by purpose for me at this given moment is for those that are living at that level. And there's nothing wrong with the level you're at. Okay. This is not about comparison, which is an ego trick, by the way. This is not judgment. It's an ego trick. This is an awareness. And where are you in the evolution? And I call it the emotional evolution or revolution, which might be the book title. I'm not sure yet.
Good. Oh, yeah, girl.
Right?
Yes,
and we dive into this.
Yes, please.
And I'm at home, so maybe I'll get that book written.
Girl, I think God just gave you a little nudge right there. Yes, and please, and we all want this book. We need this book. We need this book.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. Yes.
So brave by purpose is where I think that's what we are witnessing is not all leaders.
Yes.
Are at that point, but that doesn't mean they can't lead.
But let's also have this. This is a very profound conversation we're having because, I mean, this is a little woo, but there's a lot of theory out there right now that this is basically Mother Nature's way of cleaning some shit up right now.
Right.
And there are some yucky businesses out there, small and big, that are not about purpose. They're about profit.
Yeah.
And I believe wholeheartedly that the ones right now that are going to come out of this are because of their purpose.
Yeah.
Like you're showing up and you're being brave because you know you have a purpose. I am doing the same thing. I didn't hold back on the launch. I've got clients who are like, I have to give this content. It is not about making money right now. It's because we are so freaking passionate about what we are doing in the world. Again, I say this all the time. Like being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart, people. No. This shit is not as fun as it looks. Like I would way rather sometimes just have a day job because this shit is hard and we have been hustling for years and we don't have a stable paycheck and we don't get paid to go on vacation. And there's a lot of shit that goes along with being an entrepreneur that is not sunshine and roses.
Right.
And right now, is putting some metal to the pedal or whatever we want to say. We are being tested for our purpose.
Yeah.
And if you have been running your business with ill will or ill intent or trying to just capitalize or whatever, I think you're in trouble, because I believe wholeheartedly the bravery is coming from our purpose, and people can read through that in a hot minute.
Well, you know what I just heard?
Yep, share it.
Is that, yeah, I just heard it. Is that what if this is the way that people shift to the next level, whether you are
I totally agree that's happening.
To choice or choice to purpose.
No, I completely believe
it's a rite of passage kind of thing. Yep. I'm just saying.
No, I agree with you.
Yes, and I believe those that are living at the profit conversation. I mean, I'm all for profits, but it's like the like you said, there's kind of like that lower level. I don't know how else to call it, lower or medium or high, but it is going to weed out those that can see beyond, right? Yeah. And those that are living so close to the smallness.
Yeah.
It's, I know that it's a difficult time.
Yeah.
I can feel that.
Yeah. The 8th stage, and everybody, I'm sure lots of coaches have this, but the 8th stage of my Don't Do Stuff You Suck At entrepreneurial school for creative visionaries is called the long game.
Yes.
Because we have to build our business. Mine is an 8-step process.
Right.
Where I walk people through building a foundation. And part of one of the very first steps is your message, Like you gotta be passionate about this.
Yeah.
You gotta actually, blood, sweat, and tears. Because when we get to this place, there is the long game. Like, this isn't going away for me. I mean, it might be a couple of tough months. I don't really even know, but I ain't going nowhere, because this is my life's calling. And I agree with you. I think there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there right now that this is going to be either like, yes, like, let's do this, and some that are shitting their pants right now because they haven't done the appropriate steps. And what we're talking about is one of those main steps is you better get clear about your why. I mean, to use a Simon Sinek 100%. Thing is figuring out your why, or whoever came up with the saying, your message, like that purpose is critical in times like this.
And I think I agree. And I don't, when I say brave by purpose, it means that when we are looking through the lens of our choices and our decisions and our actions and our thinking and our beliefs and all of that self-leadership, because it comes from within out. Right? This is not happening to us. It is happening for us. And I didn't make that up either, but I will continue to say that because it puts you in a place of personal power versus victim. If you stay into happening to us, we just slid back to victimship.
Yeah.
And the other thing, right? The other thing, I'm watching Jessica. I was on another live or something yesterday, and I heard people in the conversation, because their fears and their concerns and their challenges are, wow, I have to do this and I have to do that, and now we have to stay in and we have to do that. Here's the thing. I say, if you want an immediate transformation, if you want an immediate hack on your ego, change that to I get to.
Yep.
Just say I get to. Just reframe real fast, nanoseconds.
Yep.
And only because as soon as you say I get to, you just became that brave by choice. And you just became so much more personal power, right? You became that person that can self-lead and therefore lead your family, children, and whoever else is right around you, let alone online if you're up to the game, right? Of getting visible. And it was interesting because the conversation was like, well, now I have to get on video. And I'm like, you get to, right? You get to be on video. You get to, I mean, like, thank goodness for Zoom. Thank goodness. I mean, to the gods that delivered that download. I'm like, Zoom and technology and, all of that. And the moment you start worrying about that going away, I'm like, stop the crazy worry, right? That's the illusionist, right? Again. So, so I just wanted to offer that. That's a hack, right? Is I get to, and brave by purpose is like, for now, like, why am I taking the actions? Why am I showing up in this space of what's happening? And why am I making the choices and decisions I'm making is no longer just by choice. It's by purpose. Yeah. And not to get confused, there's a whole nother dialogue we could have about what is purpose and how do you find it. And I don't believe you find it. I think you be it. And I think you show up for it.
And it comes to you.
And it's there. Yeah. It's present if you allow it in, right, to receive.
So let's dive in there, because you actually said something earlier and I was like, this could be a 4-hour podcast. It won't be, but we could be, because I was like, we haven't even gotten to the 14 things. Maybe we'll do another episode.
I'll give them, that's in a download.
Okay, great. Because you just said something about getting downloads.
Yes.
And people ask me all the time how I get mine. Yes. And I will share mine, and then I'm guessing they're similar. Yeah. I do nothing.
Yep.
Mine come, and this is why I still get up at 5 a.m. Right now, I don't need to do that. Actually, most of the time, I don't need to do that. That is my personal choice, and everyone's comes at different times. I'm not telling you have to get up at 5 a.m. Mine come at 5 a.m. until 7 a.m. because the rest of the world is not up. Nothing's happening on my phone. East Coast is awake, but Seattle is typically not. And my friend Jenny Dawn taught me this too, that she says that God knows where you are. So yes, okay. He knows to find me. The universe knows, okay, Jessica's awake. She's still, she's quiet. She's not watching the news. She's not doing anything but journaling and literally waiting for me to give her a download. So this morning in particular, I was exhausted. I woke up and I was like, why am I so tired? And I was like, maybe I'll go back to sleep. And I was like, no, I feel like something's going to come. Within like 15 minutes, I was like, oh, there it is. And I just went crazy, like with content and clarity and excitement. I was like, that is why I choose to have that time.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing yours is similar, but tell us yours, because the listeners need to hear this. People need to start implementing this.
Well, and here's the other thing is, like, if you're witnessing us, or, and people that are offering their input about how do they get their ideas and deliver on their purpose, etc., is, and I'm going to say this right up front. I didn't really start doing this until about December of 2018. I was in the hustle and the bustle and wake up and go straight to the phone and it has not been in my awareness and in my habit or discipline as long as probably for you or anyone. And so you just come to it when you come to it. And if this message, this podcast gets you to see that as your opening, then yay. And I had to hit rock bottom for it to sink in. And I did. I hit an emotional and spiritual rock bottom November 27, 2018. I have it on my calendar. And I know. And I can connect back to the emotions of that, actually. Yeah. And so then it was all I could do was to get like myself quiet and to surrender. And so mine, again, came out of some form of like necessity, and we don't recommend that. Rock bottom. So here's the thing. I don't get up at 5. Mine's either like 6:30 or 7 or what have you, but I intentionally don't start calls until like 10 or 11. Right. Yeah. So I do have that measure in place. Like, I'm not at my desk at 8 a.m. going, let's get going. Right.
Yep.
And so I am giving that expansive space in the morning, whether it's meditation, which is key for me. Awesome. And I probably operate at about 80-90% of my days. Transparent here.
Wow, it's great.
I don't want you to feel like I'm not a human being.
Yep.
And so here's what I see and why it's almost like I had to prove it to my own self. I had to prove it to myself. And so I would just offer, create an experiment, do the next, even 15 days, maybe 30, right? Experiment with it. And especially in this time here, this is the visual I get. I'm like, I think the God and universe is like an old man sitting on the rocking chair on the porch. and it is sitting there rocking and holding, just twiddling its thumbs going, I'm waiting for you to get quiet so I can speak, because it doesn't yell. It doesn't hit you with a 2x4. Now, sometimes that old man gets a little impatient.
Yeah.
We are in a 2x4.
Yeah. So
right?
What do you do specifically to get quiet?
Yeah. So definitely, and I do it in the morning, ideally.
Okay. Yeah.
Meditation. I have apps on my phone. I use Calm is one of them.
Yeah.
I love Gabby Bernstein. She's one of my faves, and she has amazing meditations as well. And I experimented with all kinds. And sometimes I need different things on different days. Sometimes my brain is on fire, and I need guided. I'm like, I can't calm it down by myself. I need that, like, calm your head down, calm your neck down. I need the guided.
Yeah,
then
great.
other times it just says breathe, and then it gets quiet, right? The app, or the and then it wakes, kind of wakes me up in 30 minutes or an hour or whatever I choose. Okay. So there are so many tools that there's just no excuse at this point to do something. And so what I've also witnessed, again, part of my experiment, is that it takes me about 15 minutes to calm the ego mind. It is not that I am trying to force my thoughts to go away. It just simply is where my body and my mind and starts to drop down is around 15 minutes. And it may feel like I am unconscious, but then I wake right up. It's not full sleep. It is that space of rest and relaxation and the parasympathetic part of our body, right? Our nervous system. And so especially with the heightened fight or flight right now, we are in stress hormones, which is going to impact our immune systems, right? And so I'm not a doctor, but yes, that is what I witness in my own experience, is that I feel better, I'm calmer, and what have you, if I do the meditation longer than 15 minutes, right? So for me, I just noticed that my mind calms down around that 10 to 15 minute mark. And so then I get into that rest and relaxation period, which is what's so beneficial to all of us. Then I journal. I have a journal close by, or what have you. And sometimes it's not about me forcing the downloads or the ideas to come. It's literally just quieting the mind enough to notice the difference. The biggest thing that I have seen for myself last year in doing all of this, is the discernment between the two voices. You have to actually figure out which voice is talking to you, because it's your voice, both of them.
So good.
And so when I can tell the difference. Not only are the ego tricks really clear, like if you hear yourself say, I can't, if you hear yourself say, I should, if you hear yourself say, I need to, these are signals, that just little small signals that maybe the ego's talking. Because the other voice is so calm and so solid and so clear and knowing, and it feels supportive. It feels like, yes, it's a full body yes. Somebody said that to me one day.
Yeah.
Like, if you feel the full body yes, then you're on point.
Is this then the way to calm the ego?
I say it is definitely one. It is for me, it is a way. It's a mechanism, a tool, a process, which I like processes. It's a practice more than anything of calming the ego. And the ego lives in that fight or flight and sympathetic, right, part of our systems. Yeah. And so if you want to calm that down, then stillness is the way to do that.
Yes.
The mind, and we are in control of our mind.
Yes.
It's not the external things happening around us that's causing our mind to do that. You can sit quietly in the space of all of it. Yeah. And have a completely different experience. And I think that's the other part of this, especially what's happening, is that the more self-leadership we have, the more emotional evolution we have, and recognizing that we generate our experience of this. We can generate, and that's why I'm also very, I think we need to be extra compassionate, because just not everyone's aware of that, and everybody's egos are turned on. It is the dance of the egos at the most highest level I've ever seen, including in my own family, including myself. I bit my husband's head off the other day, but we're adding compassion and sorry and I love you, and
and this is also our job right now, Jena, to hopefully educate people that are willing to listen.
Yes.
Because I still
100%.
believe there's a lot of people out there that are unwilling to listen, and that can't be our problem. But the people that are now feeling what's happening
Yes.
and are willing to listen, I believe wholeheartedly it is our job and others' jobs to start having these conversations. That's exactly why we're doing this right now. This is why we're still at it, why we are still going, why we are still recording podcasts and, writing books and seeing our clients to help with this collective education and understanding of what's going on.
Yes.
Elizabeth Gilbert writes in Big Magic. She talks about in one of the chapters about the idea when we're too busy. So it's hard to do this not on video, but I always move my hands around like this, very chaotic. And imagine like I'm flailing my hands right now. Right. And this is how we live our normal lives. Get up late, running late, putting your mascara on in the car, kids out the door. Oh my God, we got to go. Getting this, running from meeting to meeting all day long. We are chaotic. And that can go on for years. It is a reactivity. We are reactive all day long.
Right.
And Elizabeth Gilbert talks about that ideas are like a butterfly.
Yes.
And if we are too busy flailing around, no butterfly is going to come and land on us.
That's right.
Right?
They feel the wind. They feel the crazy
That's a great analogy, right? They're going to feel the wind and it's going to be like, never mind. I'm going to go over here to Jena because Jessica is losing her ever-loving mind right now.
You can't land on that landing strip.
Yes! And really, this is somewhat an ethereal, but this is also like realistic conversation of people ask, like, how do you get it? I'm like, slow the fuck down.
That's right.
Slow down. I mean,
I've gotten so many ideas in the last year and I feel like that it's purpose-driven ideas. Yep. And that's why I'm saying, that's why I feel the Brave by Purpose that is the level I've risen to. Yes. And it is because I've gotten quiet enough to hear it. Yeah. To hear it. I love the butterfly. I'm like, it's not going to land on the landing strip if you're moving.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so it's in closing. We have to close. I can't believe we've been talking almost an hour. I know we didn't even get to your 14 things. So we'll add those. We will add those. So in closing, I want to ask a question, and then I want you to obviously tell how we can find you, how we get these downloads, all the things. But I think my biggest curiosity after talking to you for an hour is how different your life is from 11/27/18 and what signs of bravery, what you had to do and how different your life is because you leaned in, right? So a lot of my listeners are still in that, oh shit time in their life. Sure. I don't know if I'm ready to start a business. I don't know if I'm ready to leave my spouse. I don't know if I'm ready to go back to graduate school. I don't know if I'm ready. So what about where you were on 11/27/18, and then what's the bravery that caused this new reality you're in?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It's just a small question.
Just a small question. Let me see how fast I can go here. One, I can feel the emotion of how much has transformed in a good way, right? Mm-hmm. And that is the biggest thing I probably have gone through is the emotional evolution of myself and the emotional divorcing that I had to do, the identity pivots. And I believe that is probably what is up right now. And I'll definitely be adding this to the book is, it's not you could call it identity crisis right now. And everybody kind of gets like, oh, at 50, you're in identity crisis. I believe we have multiple identity pivots throughout our life.
Love it. So
and one for me was the mother-child identity pivot. And it just shifted from mother-child or child-mother, child-parent, that whole thing, to a place of adulting. That was a huge identity pivot that occurred. And in some, actual form of my life, I discovered in the quiet moment what was right for Jena. And there were some business partnerships that just weren't right for me. It had nothing to do with the other partners or the business or any of that. It was just simply not my way anymore. I had to communicate that, and it was extremely hard, and it impacted relationships. And so then I identity pivoted my environment I heard the call to move to California from Houston, Texas in January 12th or 11th, somewhere in there of 2019.
Wow.
And by February 16th, we were having a family meeting called Are We Moving?
Wow.
My daughter, my 14-year-old at the time, and my husband, I'm like, we are going to do this together or not at all, right? They all said yes, meaning obviously we're here, but it was a very profound yes, like full body yes. And then immediately following that was 100% of all the fears and ego came in. I mean, I immediately in 2 seconds went from yay to overwhelm and like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? How I do this? And all that craziness. So I went through that. I surrendered to that process, and there was a massive roller coaster of emotions through that process as well, and trusting that my higher self gave me that answer and gave us all the power and the brave to do this move for a bigger purpose, like the highest good for all. And I don't know what all is coming. Right.
Yeah.
So it was trust. And so last year was, I got chills, is just so much about identity pivoting, stepping into my brave by purpose and emotionally divorcing things that no longer were right for me, asking the question, what's right for Jena? Like that was huge. Because I find myself serving my clients, taking care of everyone else or just being concerned about everybody else. And then being in my masculine energy of like, go, go, go and make it happen.
Totally.
That was also an identity pivot, was the need to be the one that takes care of it all. And when I find my ego sliding back into that habit, I'm real clear, and that it is getting triggered right now. It's getting, but I'm witnessing and I'm aware and I'm forgiving of myself and going, okay, this is just those kind of old conditioning, going on. I call them belief loops. And, you got to cut those belief loops and first you got to get aware of them. And so what else? I'm like, I think, and it is the year that I stepped into the meditation practice and the quiet practice more. Call it what you want. Call it taking a time out. If meditation turns you off, just call it time out, right? Calm, stillness, time out, quiet time, self-care. You can put it all in that bucket for me. And so stop getting hung up on the word meditation, because I see that happening too. I'm like, oh, I can't meditate because it means this. And that's the other thing, is that everything that we say, there are words in a dictionary, and yet we are 100% are the ones giving it the meaning.
Yes.
That's why I'm very big on like my distinction of ego, my distinction of brave. You have the freedom to create your own understanding of it. And that is what I want for people. I want people to find themselves in my conversation right now. Not just take Jena's word, not Jessica's word. It is find yourself, find your own understanding, find your own connection to it. And then take brave action with it, and move in your life in a way that is open and receptive and full of possibility, and opportunity is big right now. And so that whole year, and let me just say, I heard my head go like 2 days ago. It's like, oh, wow, we moved to California. Was that the right decision?
Oh, wow.
And I snapped my finger. I said, oh no, we're not going down that road.
Yeah.
But
Ego. Yep.
That's the ego just was
totally.
It just wanted to come up and make some stories to like, that's the funny thing about the ego. It is so smart. My whole game is about how do we outsmart the ego.
Yeah.
And
so good.
Right now at probably 90% ego all day long and 10% not. I'm trying to tip that scale. That is my goal with everything I'm teaching, everything I'm speaking on. Is how do we make it the other way? How do we live 10% ego and 90% higher self?
So good.
Then we will have an entirely different world.
Yep.
There we have it. Boom.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And I have an echo, so it must be time to end. So that was amazing. I love it. I can see us doing another one in the near future because that was phenomenal. Thank you, Jena. Tell us, before we close up, obviously people are going to want to follow you now. Like, what's your preferred way of staying in contact with my listeners?
Definitely anything social media overall is Jena Rodriguez, Jena Rodriguez. And bravemasters.com with an S is the website. Then I would love to make sure people have a tool that they can use to eradicate their fear, to walk out of it, bring their level of self-consciousness and awareness up of the ego, et cetera. And that is give them the 14 ego tricks, give them what I call the detachment method, because the ego is simply attached. And that is bravemasters.com/the method.
So good.
Method. You can have it. And I'll figure out how to get you the egoic archetypes as well. I don't know what that link is. I'm going to give it to you.
Thank you so much. This just feels like a refreshing conversation. I think we're all getting new bearings, right? But this is, we're, especially in Seattle. I mean, we're 3 weeks into this. I think the rest of the country is still, a little bit newer, but this feels like somewhat of a new normal. I feel like all of this is happening for a reason. I feel like this is the time to start having these incredibly wonderful, rich, emotionally intelligent conversations. And I just thank you so, so, so much for being a part of this with me.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you. I adore you. And we are soul sisters for sure. I'm grateful for our reconnection. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody, here is today's type tip. This is one I've talked about a lot before, but it's still a very, very, very worthy and kind of core concept Myers-Briggs thing, which is extroverts give their best selves to other people and introverts save their best selves for themselves. And I know that I actually think both introverts and extroverts are very taken back by that statement. As a strong extrovert myself, I actually think this is idiotic, that I don't save my best self for myself, and sometimes even my closest partner. As I'm aging, I'm 46 at the time of this recording, it has become a conscious effort in my life to compartmentalize and choose to shut out the external world when I'm with my partner and when I'm with my very best friends, because that's important to me. But for introverts, that's actually a pretty standard thing for them, because they are so much better about giving it to themselves, which can also come off as selfish. So extroverts are always kind of wanting to bond and connect and what's going on with you and how can I be of service and how can we get together and how can I help? And when introverts are like, ooh, can I set some boundaries here, please? They really want to save some time for themselves, and then sometimes those that are very, very close to them. So again, extroverts give naturally, they give themselves, their best selves to other people, and introverts save their best self for themselves and those that are very, very close to them, meaning like 2 or 3 people. From the bottom of my heart, truly, thank you so much for listening. I know that you have a ton of options, and the fact that you are taking time to listen to the Front Seat Life podcast means absolutely everything to me. If you're interested in learning more about the Front Seat Life way of life in the community, there's a couple ways that you can do that. First is always starting with your personality assessment tool. It's available on my website at jessicabutts.com. It's totally free, and it will help you figure out your personality type so you'll have some idea of what we're talking about. Next is, if you're interested in hiring me for a keynote or some coaching or strategy days or the fabulous and amazing Front Seat Life community, you can find out all about all of that at jessicabutts.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.